Yeah.
All right, so looking right off at this map, I see a high ground in the middle. I see very, very green appearance, and it looks like there's a lot of narrow traveling paths here.
Yeah, believe it or not, the middle is probably one of my favorite features about this map because it's really hard to pull off a Century Immortal all in. You have so much pathing that you have to go through. Taking the mouse, you actually come down your main into your natural, and then you have to make it up into these ramps on the side. It's literally a long walk to get through the middle of the map. You can either come this way, you can come this way, but there's all these fogs basically. Basically, you can put lings out in the outskirts of it, put a ling in that fog, and then when the sentries are walking forward a little bit, you can actually jump all your lings on top of them and kill off sentries really quickly. Essentially, invisible engagements are on your side on this map.
So a little bit of a defender's advantage there. Now, we are using these, intending to use a couple of these maps, so excuse us while we do fix that starboard, but you get to see the really cool IPL background.
Yeah, yep. Well, apparently the scoreboard doesn't want to show up for us. We'll have to deal with that later. But yeah, these are live, guys. We're in a different studio. We had to actually go to the side. We'll get our main studio, so things might be a little bit on the offside. But
yeah, we are going to be broadcasting for a little while today.
Something else to note is that you have your natural. You have a relatively easy third to grab on this map. A little bit of a small pathway, but easy to wall off this area. But look at the high ground. There's a high ground entrance into here. There's a potential for siege tank shops or siege tanks to be set up here for Terran to really try and slow down mining on these gases down here. It's a nice little feature on this map. A lot of pathing for run-bys as well. So
you know, I like the distance, though, between that ramp and the third base itself. It's something that doesn't really exist as much on Antigua. See how open this is?
Yeah.
It's going to make it a lot tougher for a Protoss army, especially in a matchup like this. If we actually look at the Zerg third, instead, you know, say we see Crank deciding, we might as well do this since we don't have the scoreboard. I know it's so... That didn't work.
Damn, there you go.
Crank could be able to try to push into this third, but it's not going to be as broken as on maps such as Antigua Shipyard, where if you make it into the third, you actually have an unkillable Protoss army against Zerg.
To have a 13 full happening here for jookto, going a little bit on the aggressive side. Notice there is one Xel'Naga in the middle of the map. It actually, I believe, covers around this little bit of an area. You don't have too much vision in grabbing that. It's also a big middle as well. So, again, if you have a Protoss army kind of stationed right here, you can have a run-by go around the side and run straight to the natural. So much pathing available in the middle of this map. The other part of it as well, Terran has a nice little advantage as well, doing some drop play in this little ledge. A couple siege tanks to be on the low ground. Just... this map is a lot of fun, and it really changes up a lot of gameplay. I believe this map was actually used in ESV Weekly once or twice, but it never really took off. So this is a vote, guys. If you like it, definitely get your votes in for it.
All right, well, I'm excited to see how it plays out here in this ZVP. jookto trying to get a hatchery down right now. His spawning pool is 100% complete. We should see a queen and lings on the way. There they are. Nexus going down for Crank. He did open with a Forge first, so a little more conservative here, and it makes a lot of sense, actually, when you account for the fact that there's a possibility these guys have never, ever played on this map before.
Yeah, very true. Also, another thing as well, since mid-game aggression is so important on this map, you notice the late game is really hard to get to.
Look at how narrow this ramp is.
Yeah, its fourth base is all the way up here at the top right. So it's really hard to move to that. You actually may want to come over to the left side, but it really pulls you away from your main and natural. So something to know, guys, we're going to be having mid-game aggression most likely on this map, because that's what this map really favors toward. Ling's now grabbing the Xel'Naga. See it coming down this little pathing, and that was the little bushes I was talking about as to where you can't see it on the other side unless you have that Xel'Naga available.
Yeah.
And here come the Lings running down. They're going to check around this area. There is some potential for some proxy shenanigans here. Put a pylon on the high ground. They can warp in a couple of gateways down here on the bottom and move across the middle of the map. Just so many features here for us.
jookto already highlighting that he knows exactly where to place his overlords to scout for probes. I really, really like this. Attention to detail. I mean, with how he's got the one sitting in the bottom left as well, covering a lot of travel routes here up on this high ground. Really, really nice stuff.
I actually didn't know about this little pillar there. That's nice. That really helps out for overlords. Good pillar. 7-minute score now on the way for Crank, and he's just moving up to a standard build, playing a very safe build, one that allows him to move into any mid-game aggression that he wants to go into. And, you know, with this map being a little bit on the newer side, I don't really, I'm not mad at him for it. No problem.
I'm sad there's no game timer, man. Want to see you on that side
before. Oh, yeah, we need to put that up,
too. A little bit late. So we'll get that fixed in between next set of games, but jookto has yet to take a third base, I think is the important thing to mention right now. He is mining gas.
You know what?
These this allows for, you know, all-in builds. It also allows for things like 2-base Infestor or 2-base Muta.
You know what? Because we actually have a little bit of a delay time till we have anything, I'm going to go ahead and fix it right now. I don't even care, man. Straight up. Gameplay. Going to go ahead and put on the game timer, and we're also going to get rid of these menu bars up here in the top right corner, because they are
and the health bars might as well set those to selected.
And this is why
that is the problem. Yeah.
There we go. We'll get that scoreboard up. So
All
smart.
of a
Thank you,
sudden,
Josh. Good guy down here. All right,
production in our ear.
let's
I
go
don't
ahead and
know
get the
if you
scoreboard
guys
up.
can hear Josh, but he's got a voice like silk.
He does. Does it work? Did it work? Did it work? No, it
And
didn't
he
work.
has really good yellow sweaters.
We'll figure it out later. He does have really
I've
nice
never seen
sweaters.
anybody in my life pull off yellow sweaters until I met
Charlie
Josh
Brown
Shaw.
did.
Yeah?
Yeah, Snoopy.
He's not a real person, though.
He's a real person.
Josh
Charlie
is a real
Brown
person.
is real. That's what makes the story so good. Stargate play on the way for Crank, and gosh, he loves the Stargate play. So many games I've seen with him. He goes DTs if he wants to try and prevent Terran from going too crazy on mules, but against Zerg, he loves to open up with Stargate play, and we have Phoenix already on the way. Thing is, though, jookto is already moving into Spire Tech. If he has the opportunity to catch Phoenix with those mutas, oh my gosh, he can do damage, but Crank has the availability here to catch him with Micro.
Yeah, this isn't any sort of all-in out of Crank, so this is not too bad for him. Now, if he went double Stargate, you make Void Rays, you probably die to actually. The Spire is a very, very good counter to going for a double Stargate play. But with this being the situation, Crank, he's just making a couple of Phoenix. Granted, in low counts, Phoenix are not typically good against Mutalisks, but they will give him some harassment potential. It's going to have the ability to get in there. It's not ideal, of course. Twilight Council would be your best case scenario, but it's not as bad as if he had gone Robo, to be honest.
Well, I really like that. You saw jookto bring his lings down here in the bottom left and check around for any proxy pylons before moving to that third. It really makes you pay attention to the outskirts of the map rather than seeing in a lot of maps you have players put a lot of their armies actually in the middle of the map and they leave it outside of their natural, and that's all they really care about. It really has been making jookto be very active with the overlords, the lings. Knight comes down looking for that third, but Crank has not moved into a third quite yet. He's moving into 3 gateways, it looks like, falling into a Twilight Council as well. So going to have Phoenix and going to be able to start moving up to more upgrades at the same time. Yeah, it looks like he really wants to get a third.
Looking back on what you were saying before, Tim, towards the map, that is our one of our goals here with this tournament. It is a very wide map. It's one of the things that I'm really realizing here about Abode. A lot of ways to slip units around the left and right-hand sides of the Zelnaga Tower. Very, very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so wide until actually watching the game. You're right, man. It's like a Subway sandwich. So wide. Looks like we're going to have Corruptors popping out right away for jookto, so he's going to go ahead and deflect those Phoenix. And both players are just playing really safe builds. They want to be able to feel out the map before deciding to really make a huge play here, which I'm okay with it, man. I would love getting to mid-late games on newer maps.
All right, well, Corruptors do fantastic against Phoenix, without a doubt. We didn't see mutas. So now jookto is going to be able to... let's actually take a look. I mean, he hasn't really transitioned into anything as of yet. He's throwing down a macro hatch, so it could just be huge quantities of lings, maybe banelings. We could see evolution chambers down here in a moment. I'm really anxious to see what his follow-up is going to be, because, of course, you can't kill your opponent with Corruptors.
Well, we do have...
No matter how hard you try.
We'll float around here. See how tanky they are? And that one Phoenix almost dies off, and literally this one Corruptor took a little over half damage, so... It's hard to engage on that, and Crank does know it, trying to find an area to where he can make some damage be done. Unfortunately, that won't be happening. He's actually stopped making Phoenix as well, knowing, okay, well, he's going to stick with Corruptors. Well, then I'll move into a different tech route. We do have the third Nexus on the way, falling up into gateways. Interesting wall in here.
Oh, wow. jookto immediately queues up 12, 13 Mutalisks. It's a little bit scary for Crank. He does have Blink on the way, however.
Sky Zerg, man. That's cool, because the Corruptors actually allow him to come into the third with the mutas, and he can actually harass the probe line while the Corruptors actually defend the mutas. That's really clever, actually. Observer does come into the main. We'll get a full scout off, and Crank will realize, okay, he's only actually got a Spire to protect. Oh, do you see the mutas?
It was
I think
very
barely
close.
That was really, really close, and he actually might see him now.
We'll see if he starts throwing. Oh, my goodness. I don't think he has actually seen those Mutalisks.
Just barely. Good job here from jookto. We do have +3 weapons being queued up immediately here for Crank, and he has moved into a nice amount of Stalkers. So he is going to have some anti-air. Just needs to be careful that he's actually focusing down mutas, not Corruptors.
Okay, he saw the Mutalisks. 2 additional gateways going down, so his Stalker count will grow as quickly as possible. A cannon as well, going to help supplement the defenses here of Crank as he takes his third base. jookto is throwing down a 4th while he continues with this aggression. Second cannon going down for Crank. He blinks his Stalkers in. He's going to try to force these units away, and will be successful for now.
Well, for now, it's just playing the defense game here. The Observer is checking around, looking for any extra bases that might be going up. A fourth is actually on the way for jookto, and he's getting a nice amount of lings on the field, as I mentioned earlier, too. So really want to put aggression on. The thing is, Crank is actually pretty well defended. He's got photon cannons. He's got a pylon over here with the Stargate being powered up, but he'll be able to see those mutos come in so he can respond accordingly. At the same time, we do have lings grouping up outside this third, too. So jookto's trying to make multi-pronged aggression work.
And if he gets his Stargate, it'll be a nice victory for late-game style of play, because that Stargate will have to be rebuilt in order to make it to Fleet Beacon. jookto, for now, has got his lings positioned to run in here on the third, while the mutas are just trying to bait these Stalkers into coming at home to defend.
Crank just leaving his Phoenix here. Really gutsy for the defense, and it looks like he will get
I mean,
a couple
not enough
pokes
to defend. If he sends the Corruptors in front, there you go. The Corruptors need to push the Phoenix back, then the mutas have free reign. One muta goes down, that takes him to 12. He's got 15 more mutas about to pop out here, though, in a second, Tim.
Yeah, he's really going heavy on the mutas here. And the thing is, with Crank constantly warping in Stalkers, these lings get really strong as well with +1 attack finishing up. At the same time, they can actually get a huge surround on these Stalkers and do a nice amount of damage. Unfortunately, not enough lings for jookto, in my opinion, to actually go for a full engagement.
Well, he's got a lot more on the way right now, though. And the thing is, Crank has not dropped a Templar Archives. He has no Archons, no Storm. He will not have a way to deal with 30-something odd mutas. Look at the units tab right now, if we can, and it says actually 30 even.
Wow.
He can't fight 30 mutas if they have the link support. This is going to be far too many Zerglings for Crank.
Well, Crank staying on just pure Stalker at the moment. Hasn't warped in any Zealots to deal with these lings, and the engagement is happening here. Guardian Shield has been popped right away. The Phoenix has moved forward to get some mutas. The lings are actually kept out pretty nicely well.
Very nice force fields, actually, and that saves Crank for the moment. We should see a Templar Archives immediately as a response to this, because now he's seen that jookto has invested very heavily into Mutalisk. Honestly, if he doesn't drop a Templar Archives, Ling Muta will eventually kill his army once he baits out all the force fields that Crank has.
All right, Stalker's just stalking around the middle of the Zelnaga here, and see how much area he has to move around, which is really nice for him. Force fields are landed right away. Banelings are falling up as well. The Banelings are going to be kept out. A few mutas do fall. It looks like Phoenix falls for Crank as well, though. Decent trades for a Protoss player, but he's getting caught.
The force fields are gone. The Banelings are on their way in. They're going to be not able to crash into any units right now, but the Lings need to give pursuit. He needs to keep the Lings with the mutas here. The Stalkers, of course, will be able to defeat them without Zergling support.
All right, force fields do land. Going to go ahead and try and deal with these lings. The Corruptors are just floating above, and they're actually getting taking a lot of shots there for the mutas to actually come in and get some damage done. Yep. The mutas, though, are getting cleaned up pretty nicely. 168 to 134 supply, though, as the reinforcements for jookto is looking pretty strong here. He's going to be jumping up to 29 mutas in a second when the 7 do pop out.
All right, big engagement. Baneling speed kicks in halfway through this fight, and there are not a lot of mutas left. jookto is going to have to pull back, but he has done some substantial damage to this Protoss army.
Well, +1 did finish up for those Stalkers, so it made it a little bit easier to deal with those Banelings. But yeah, you're right, man. Crank is looking pretty far behind here. And behind all this, jookto is moving into his 4th base. He's checked up in the top right, looking for any hidden expansions here for Crank. Crank trying to get his 4th up, as his main is getting very low on resources. He knows he needs to keep up the production if possible. I'm glad that he's starting to move into some Zealots. He's got a couple sprinkled in here. It's going to help out with the lings, but we already have a transition on the way for jookto pretty soon, as he's about to finish up Hive.
Yeah, and I'm really waiting for this Templar Archives from Crank. I mean, even if, you know, your opponent's going straight for Broodlord here, as these mutas are killing more and more probes, you do want Archons and Storm. Archons specifically to be able to deal with, you know, the Broodlords. He did lose his Stargate, so getting a Mothership is going to be a lot more difficult. For now, though, Crank's doing a great job at not being picked apart, except he's taking so much damage in his 3rd right now from these mutas. Oh my goodness.
They're just floating around. The Stalkers are going to get a nice little concave, though. He's going to try and deal with them. Blink was just used, though, so he can't quite pursue. The Lings make it into the 4th as well. The Zealots are dealing with him. The mutas, a couple of them are going to get caught off here from jookto. He's actually only dealing with a Simulator and a couple of the Stalkers with 3 mutas here. But look at the reinforcements. Oh my gosh. So many things.
Hey, a Templar Archives finished sometime during all of that, and Storm is now on the way. So Crank will have viable ways to deal with these Mutalisks in the near future. jookto, though, has stopped producing mutas. He will now be moving into Ultralisks momentarily, which, of course, is a fantastic transition, as there is virtually no robotics on the map for Crank. He will have no way to make Immortals.
Well, I'd like to see upgrades on the way still here for Crank here. He hasn't moved up into anything except Psionic Storm. +2 armor would be really good for him, I feel. And it looks like the Balians are going to be force filled out. He's going to try and focus him down with the Stalkers on the right side. Some nice blinking there to prevent any damage, but the Muta swooping in from the top right will get some damage done as well, as he had to focus on the Banelings.
This is a fantastic engagement for Crank, though. He has done an incredible amount of damage, bringing the supply deficit to just 22.
No, the engagement happens again. Lings do get into the middle line here. We do have finally some High Templars in the field, and with the High Templars being spotted by jookto, he is forced to retreat, and that gives Crank some time to go in and chase a couple down. You
know, the problem, though, is that Crank has gone for High Templar about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes too late now, and jookto made it an incredibly intelligent play here in going for Ultralisks. He went, well, Crank is really being picked apart by these mutas, so he's probably going Templar tech right now.
Yeah.
You know, what are Archons pretty bad against? They're not so good versus Ultra. Let's do the Ultra instead. Even though I have the Spire, instead of going for, Greater Spire, he could easily have a Stargate back up. He may be working his way towards dealing with Broodlords. How about we throw Ultralisks at him? And I don't think Crank is expecting this in the slightest. In fact, he's just getting glimpses of his first Ultras right now, and I am very surprised he's not falling back with all of his forces.
Well, he's finally moved to a box facility here, so Immortals are going to be on the way. Top right corner, Stalkers are being chased. Lings will be chasing down the bottom right corner as well. A Storm is landed right away, but doesn't hit anything, unfortunately. And now Crank is on the defensive here. And behind this, jookto is able to double expand. He's taking bases in the top right corner and the bottom left corner. The Ultra's charging forward right away. Banelings getting straight on these Stalkers. They're not split enough. Crank is forced to GG.
All right, well, a pretty one-sided match overall that really just boiled down to Crank didn't make Templar tech.
It really worked out as well for jookto. He went for a quick Spire, and that meant that Crank couldn't get a huge number of Phoenix out quite yet, so he couldn't get really good engagement and couldn't do any harassment. When you go for Phoenix, you're really going for some kind of annoying strat. You're annoying the minerals, keeping your opponent back while you expand to a third. And since he couldn't get to that third, it slowed him down so much before he could actually move up into another base and then could get to that Templar tech a little bit quicker. But,
yeah. At the same respect, jookto, he did not go for a third early on. He went for 2-base Spire, and that slows you down substantially in your economy. When you don't get to make mutas and harass your opponent, it can be pretty challenging, but he kind of hit it and then spit out 15 mutas all at once, caught Crank off guard. It was really cool how jookto decided to deal with the fact that he was up against Stargate tech.
Alrighty, guys, we're going to get a commercial break. We're going to come back with another map for you to look at. That was Abode. Please go check it out at sc2melee.net. Give it any type of rating that you'd like to. I believe the scale goes all the way up to 10. And then also you can let us know at our respective Twitters, IPL Robin and then Kibbles. We'll be back after a quick commercial.